Ever since November 5th, you've been seeing the headlines, Democrats in disarray. There's an identity crisis within the Democratic Party. And Democrats really seemingly struggled to find their footing since they lost the White House, the House, and the Senate in November. And there seems to be a disagreement with the messaging and how to go forward. And I feel that this really played out last week with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's 180 on supporting the continuing resolution that averted a government shutdown. To start off the conversation, what do you think of his decision?
Chuck Schumer was in an almost impossible position. Let's be clear about that. He felt, as leader of the Democrats in the Senate, you have to remember that his primary job is to reclaim the majority 2 years from now. And his vote was based on the notion that he was genuinely concerned that Democrats would be blamed for shutting down the government at a time when Democrats' approval rating is already at an all-time low. I get that. But let's be clear, whether or not he voted for the continuing resolution, Republicans were always going to blame Democrats for shutting down the government if he did that, right? And so there's no real way of getting around that. I would also say that I understand his vote because his vote saved $1 billion from being cut from the Washington, D.C.'s public funding. I mean, that's schools, that's trash collection, basic civil services for the almost 1 million residents of Washington, D.C., who are taxed without representation in this country. And so he did save Washington, D.C. from an extraordinarily detrimental potential budget cut. That said, Democrats around the country, as well as those interested in democracy globally, were looking for the Democratic Party to put up some kind of fight to show that they have some relevance in what's happening right now in congressional processes. And I think Chuck Schumer didn't meet that moment. What I think is that this provides an incredible opportunity for new leadership to emerge under the mantle of the Democratic Party. There's an internal opportunity for a true liberal champion to step up, somebody like a Raphael Warnock or maybe even a Cory Booker. But I also think there's an external opportunity, both for somebody to primary Chuck Schumer from the left, but also really just for the next generation of Democratic Party leadership to emerge. And I suspect that that leadership will emerge from someone who is outside of contemporary or even traditional American politics in general.
The former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi reportedly said something along the lines of, well, I never give away anything for free. And that is what it looks like Chuck Schumer did. Chuck Schumer defended his position just like you did by saying he had two choices and they were nearly impossible, but averting the government shutdown was the better option. In your opinion, you're saying he didn't meet the moment. What could he have done? Do you think Democrats, with their approval rating really in the gutter right now, should have just went through and shut down the government?
You know, I am no fan of President Trump and all the things we're seeing out of his administration. But if you observe from the last 10 years of the Trump administration, particularly this 2 months of 2.0, he is a deal maker. This was Chuck Schumer's opportunity to try to wheel and deal. Nancy Pelosi is right. And it's easy, let's be clear, it's easy for Nancy Pelosi to say because she wasn't in the decision-making seat at the time. But it does feel like Democrats, particularly Senate Democrats, who is the all-powerful body, extracted pretty much nothing out of this. Let's be clear, you don't want the government to shut down because you don't want the Trump administration and Doge doing whatever they do without Congress and governmental bodies being in session to be able to watch and at least report. But it does feel like Chuck Schumer really extracted nothing for a vote that effectively looks like he rolled over.